Hello and welcome back to Morning Shot. Today we have Dean McPherson, who is the head of the DA in Kwa-Zulu Natal, and he's here to talk to us about, well, Kwa-Zulu Natal. So Dean, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on Morning Shot. The first question, really, we're going to focus only on the DA in KZN, and there's two interesting stories here. Number one, the Zulu King and his coronation. For the first time in a very long time, I think the DA was invited because John Steenhuisen did share a photo of himself at the coronation. What is the significance of this? Because one would think the DA being a liberal party, maybe like kings aren't part of that worldview. Has that changed?
Well, I think the most significant thing about that first photograph was how John ignored Jacob Zuma and the look on his face and shaking Mbeki's hand. So I think that was significant in itself. But the Zulu monarchy is a big part of society here in KZN, and he plays an oversized and outsized role in society in KZN. As a small backstory, I knew the previous king quite well. We used to play golf together here where I live, and he's respected, particularly the new one, King Mr. Zulu, and I think that there's definitely nothing wrong with a political party respecting the customs and traditions that he has, and which millions of people subscribe to in this province. And we're certainly wishing him well in his new reign, and that he's able to foster cohesion and also unite the nation, which is really important to us in this province.
I'm very curious as to how the DA's views the Zulu monarchy, because obviously it being a liberal party, you wouldn't really expect it to be keen on, how should we say, monarchs, I suppose, especially in line with this, obviously, this devolution kind of idea. But how do you see the DA interacting with the Zulu monarchy going forward?
Well, I mean, we obviously have ambitions within this province in the next couple of years to hopefully get into coalition government, and you can't get away from the fact that the Zulu monarchy is respected by a lot of people in this province. He governs 60% of the land under Ngonyama, the trust, and I know there's a lot of contestation about that at the moment. But Byron, many people feel and understand that it's absolutely okay for individuals to associate with any person they deem fit. And if people want to associate themselves with the Zulu monarchy, that's also okay. We respect the role that he plays, and the immense ability that he has to bring different people together. And I think that's been the real history of the monarchy in the province. And look, they're not without their faults, but I think that on balance they play a far greater role than, say, any other political parties or other organizations might. So we think that he's got a lot of room to grow and to continue to unite our province, which comes from a really difficult background, particularly in the 1980s.
Yeah, so Dean, I actually respect that greatly. I was like a liberal a long time ago, and I was like, oh, monarchies in South Africa, who the hell needs them? Now that I'm like very right wing, I'm like, yeah, monarchy is actually pretty good. So if the king is able to unite the province very well, i.e., devolve powers towards the king, because now the DA is on this devolution policy, which is a great policy. Myself and Byron and Morning Shot generally agree with it. No doubt the king is a very important aspect of that as well.
Well, I mean, I think that the king's role in society is very defined by the constitution, and I think that he recognizes that. He's the custodian of customs and culture in this province, and I certainly believe in that, and I know that many other people do. And if we have someone that's able to drive that in this province, that can only be good for us. And I think that devolution and something like a monarchy are not incompatible with one another. Just watching some of his interviews post his coronation, it's very refreshing to hear the king speak so openly about even the challenges that he sees, and using his word that he wants to step up and step up to the plate. And he recognizes that there's a lot more that the monarchy can play in KZN. And I think that that's good. I think that that's exciting. And what we've seen is, I think, a real renewed interest in the roles that that monarchies can play in society. We've seen that in the UK post the Queen's death, and we've seen now with the new coronation of the King in KZN. And I think it's really reignited a debate about, whether society needs central figures that we look up to and that can guide us through difficult times and also unite us when we find ourselves on the opposite ends of difficult issues in society.
How does the Zulu King, in your opinion, how does he view then the ANC's agenda? Because obviously the ANC's agenda and centralization of power, obviously has been, its main policy documents are basically written by the South African Communist Party. So we know more or less kind of their trajectory of thought, where they'd like to see things go. But that kind of doesn't work too well when you have a monarch. If you have any kind of form of socialist government with a monarch, well, you've got two kingmakers that are going to be in conflict. So how do you see the Zulu King interacting with the existing regime in KZN? Obviously, the ANC.
Well, the one thing I was really grateful for with the late King, King Goodwill-Zwelithini, is his openness and honesty about the failures of government. And his determination to rid society of corruption. He was very forthright about that. In fact, he called the ANC crooks, or amasela, which is thieves, in isiZulu. King isiZulu has, I see, taken that mantle from his father and said, that people in our province deserve clean government. They deserve service delivery. It's very clear which party is not providing that. So I think that that's actually a shot across the bow of the ANC, and we've seen political parties scrambling for the King's attention of late, and I think that he's making his views without wading into the the political space, which he shouldn't do, clear, and he's directing political parties, directing society to say that what we need is service delivery. What South Africans desperately need is is clean government, and for as long as he keeps beating that drum, I think he's going to earn more and more respect.
And we will be right back. But afterwards, we're going to discuss exactly how the DA wants to run clean governance in KZN and kick out the ANC. Stay with us. Let's be honest, Bitcoin is by far the best performing asset of the last decade, and a lot of people are using Bitcoin to hedge themselves against government overreach and fiat currency debasement, otherwise known as inflation. And that's why the guys over at Bitvice have developed their latest product, Sat Stacker. Essentially, you set a debit order, you accumulate Bitcoin every single month. Your Bitcoin won't be on an exchange, it won't be in anyone's hands, it will be directly deposited into your private wallet. So accumulate Bitcoin today, and every single month you set the price, you set the frequency, Sat Stacker does all the rest. In order to get started, click the link in the description below. But talking about clean governance, and you said the King is very keen on clean governance, Helen Zille, as according to News 34, Helen Zille herself, no one else, struck a pact with the IFP to crush the ANC rule in Kwa-Zulu Natal. Now, this is a massive story, and I think it's vitally important because KZN is a vitally important province for the ANC, especially since Jacob Zuma. He was a Zulu, he built up many branches in KZN. I think it was one of their biggest areas of support for the ANC for over a decade. That has come down dramatically. And now it looks like your party, the DA and the IFP, might want to kick them out completely from any forms of power. Tell us a little bit about how this pact with the IFP came about and what do you really want to do there?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe News 24 would do well to remember that there are more people than Helen Zille in the DA, and these sorts of things do take place with many number of individuals. But this has actually been something that's been long coming. We've been working at it, particularly in this province, for about a year. So we had a very high-level meeting last week that included the leaders of both parties. And what we did agree on is that we have a common enemy, that's the ANC. We want to get rid of the ANC in this province in 2024. And so we set up a technical team between the two parties, 5 members from each party, that met the very next day to start discussing issues between our parties and some things that we need to iron out. And I think that there's really a long-term view to say that between the two of us, if we work strategically together, both being our individual parties as well and not losing sight of that, there's every possibility that the ANC will be relegated to the opposition benches in the KwaZulu Natal legislature. And I think that it's created a lot of excitement amongst people in this province, and that's been very, very exciting to see.
Yeah, so the main reason that it may be exciting for most is that what most people may fail to remember is that for a long time the ANC failed to make inways into, well, KZN, because it was typically the heartland of the IFP. And it wasn't until Jacob Zuma came about with his 50 million kind of his little branches and, you know, the way that he structured everything, that the ANC obviously properly took over that province, and now obviously it has a monopoly. So it would be interesting to see the power dynamic shift with the IFP should we say, back in the driver's seat. But I suppose for me, the question that I would have and the comment I would have is a number of people have speculated on what 2024 may bring with it. So, you know, one of the popular kind of theories is that the ANC may have a unity government of the IFP and the ANC. But now, based on this announcement, it looks like that may no longer be a possibility, in which case there's only really one party left for the ANC to play with, which is the EFF. What do you see the role of the EFF being, both in KZN, where at certain elections it has been the kingmaker, and how do you see that affecting the 2024 coalition talks, which may be a possibility in the province?
Well, the EFF said that they want to work with what they call the Taliban faction of the ANC. It's incredible that a political party would name itself after a terrorist organization, but maybe that's how they see themselves. And they said that they want to get the IFP out of these municipalities, despite being the deputy mayor in many of them. And I think that that's really sort of quickened the discussions between the IFP and the DA. They're obviously looking for a natural partner to form more solid local governments where they are. And look, I mean, there's some stuff that we're not happy about, but at least we're able to have an open discussion with them, and we've managed to solve some of the problems that exist in some of these local governments, and try and stabilize them as well. And I think that they've realized that, you know, the ANC and EFF are pulling at each other to try and strike some sort of a bigger deal in KZN and nationally as well. And you know, if we can put something together that holds the ANC and the EFF out, that's got to be good. And I think that what I've just seen in the last week, Byron, is just people have just been really energized by this announcement, because all of a sudden they can see a post-ANC, provincial government in this province, and it's the only other province outside of the Western Cape that has had a non-ANC government before. So there is that ability to do that and get that done. But also what we see is much like the ANC in the Western Cape, when they're in opposition, they become completely useless, and they're really collapsing at a rapid rate in KZN. So they're actually fueling their own demise. Just last week or 2 weeks ago in Harding, down in southern KZN, the IFP in 2021 in the elections in a ward got 0 votes, not one. And they went from 0 to 530 votes in less than a year and won that ward in an ANC municipality. So, I mean, the ANC just really are at all sorts of odds at the moment. They lost a ward in Richards Bay that they've held since 1994 to the IFP. So as long as we can keep them out of these municipalities, we can actually quicken their demise towards 2024. And that's what the commitment that both us and the IFP have made.
So, Dean, very last question from me. So there is that RET faction, part of the ANC KZN faction, which is known as the Taliban faction, the RET faction, so to speak. These people seem to be like very populist amongst like nationalization of land. They like William Kize, not Cyril Ramaphosa. So William Kize is quite a big honcho down there. If he's got the support of ANC and KZN, he could be quite a an important person to take out Cyril come the general elective conference in end of this year, actually. Where is William Kize in all this? Is he just looking after his own interest, or he's a Zulu? Is there maybe something in the background we don't know about, or is he completely out of the picture?
So for some time, Roman, I've been saying that Zweli Mkhize is the biggest threat to Cyril Ramaphosa, but not to the point that he can beat him at a Congress. There's one thing that Cyril craves more than anything, and that is to be uncontested in the next ANC election. And my belief, and has been for some time, is that what KZN is doing is saying to Cyril that at the end of the day, we will step back. You will not be contested. Zweli will withdraw, but it will be on this condition. I don't know what that condition is at the moment, whether it's to make him the deputy president or to put him into the top 6, but there will be some influential role that KZN want him to play. And it'll be on the condition that he is placed somewhere, and then Cyril will be uncontested, and then Cyril's ego will be massaged, which is desperately what he wants. So KZN's playing a very smart game. If there's one thing that people should never take KZN for is sort of ignorant in ANC politics. They advanced Jacob Zuma, so they know how to play the ANC game, and that's exactly what they're doing at the moment. And I mean, I can tell you from being in this province that Cyril has absolutely no support, not any ounce of support. And the only way that they're going to guarantee any form of ANC turnout in 2024 is for Cyril to do what KZN tells them to do. So that's my prediction, and let's see if it comes right.